and I was fully ready.
We're live, bro. I don't cut shit.
You don't cut anything?
I don't cut shit. So
You said it was 99, and I was like, I'm glad it's 99. 100 is a lot of pressure. And like, who's guessed for 100? Who's guessed for 100?
I'm trying to get oh wait, I didn't even fix it my own mic. I'm trying to get Lindley and Brady back for 100.
That's what I thought it was going to be.
But to be honest, I don't know if the Phillies. I don't know how. Oh, this thing's super loose.
Oh, if they're going to allow.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I mean, if the Phillies front office people are listening, bro, like, we're not going to talk about anything crazy. Just let the boys on.
Come on, Hurricane. Let him on.
Yeah. Let him on. Well, I don't even know if Dan can get on because I was trying to get him on before, and he's just like, I don't know. Like, even if we just talk shop, might be too political. Again, I don't know. Hey, yo, Phillies. Yo, Dombrowski, hook a homie up. But anyways,
he definitely listens to this.
Yeah. R&D podcast episode 98. This sucks. Caravan, VP of Business Ops, Director of Data Science. Drinking a toss me whatever I'm drinking.
Toss you.
Drinking a Citra, Hellbent Citra. See how this business, and got a special guest for episode 98.
My name is Jeremy Tecktiel. I'm the Assistant Director of the Driveline Youth Academy, drinking the Stuff Plus Eno Ceres beer.
Yeah. Which Eno got us, I think, or sent us the case to like November, December. Yeah. I chugged one on.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, I approve. Yeah. Is it a hazy, technically? What'd you say on it?
Just a West Coast double IPA.
All right, let's go. Yeah, no, I chugged one on video and sent one and tagged them on Twitter. I was like I mean, it was barely a skip, but I was like chugging it, and then like Dan was like in the background like taking a sip, like with a spoon. I was like, yo, that's too much, bro. And then I was like, the only advice is just make something a little bit less strong. Yeah. Because skinny boys can't handle it.
It's hard to chug.
But yeah, I mean, try it. Let me know how hard it is to chug.
Just get on a knee. That's great content, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially the burp afterwards if you don't get anything out.
Yeah. I've had some pretty good drinking related tidbits on the pod. Almost took my eye out with opening a beer bottle, like with another beer bottle. Like I was just like this, and like shot and hit me like right here. Last pod I had like Langan didn't have a lighter, and he was trying to open, or I mean not just a lighter, just like anything to open like a Corona beer bottle with. Yep. And he thought he could like twist it off. He's like, because he's not experienced with like non-light beers, honestly. Like when we talked about it, like 5 minutes
checks
on the
out.
pod,
Yeah.
He's like, you sure it's not a twist off? I was like, bro, it's not a twist. He's like, there's no level of torque I can apply. I was like, nah, bro. It's not a twist off. It's not a twist off. And then he was like trying to open it with his key, but like doing it like this, like not catching an angle at all.
Not
like,
getting the leverage.
Yeah. I was like trying to coach him through it, and then he just had someone in the facility in AC do it. But anyways, give the people some background. How'd you get a assistant director? Which by the way, congrats. Is that like a new position or like
September?
Coordinator, director.
Yeah, I was very briefly the operations coordinator. Okay, that was about 3 months. So I've been working at Driveline for 4 years.
Yeah.
Just a long time.
Yeah.
In Driveline years. That's like 28.
Yeah.
It's like dog years. That's like 28 years.
Point, yeah. And like each year adds like more and more.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like your 4 years, your 4 years, 28 in dog years, or human years. I'm like 5 years in change, but that's like 42.
Yeah.
And like fucking scale.
Yeah.
And Mark's been working at Driveline for like 100 years.
150 at least, yeah. Yeah, so I started 4 years ago. Came out here to work on TRAQ, which is our player development software that we have.
Hit a demo.
We could do a demo right now. Some of you listening may have been on a demo with me. For years I did that. That was the bulk of my job was like customer support, bug logging, stuff like that. It's a pretty small TRAQ staff. So did a lot of that. It was a lot of fun. And then after COVID, so during COVID, lease was up here, so I moved back to Chicago for a couple months and then came back here. I came back right at the start of Academy Season 2, which was last year. And my background, before I came to Driveline, I'd coached in the minor leagues, been around minor league baseball, dugouts, pro baseball for a while, and just like really missed that and enjoyed working on track, but just like missed being outside of my computer and like on a field. So
feeling the dirt on your cleats.
Yeah, exactly. So volunteered, although not really volunteered because I did get paid, to coach last year. and
Volunteered for Academy.
for Academy.
Which do you want to just generally describe the Academy product for any? I mean, you guys got your own podcast. First off, which I was gonna accuse you guys of just ripping off the R&D pod. No, I mean it's fine. No, we're podcast network, bro.
Yeah, we have a whole podcast network. Right? This is a cross podcast thing.
Yeah.
With all the Driveline pods.
But yeah, do you want to just like very briefly like lay out like Academy, like what the product is?
Yeah,
like
absolutely. So we're year 3 right now, so it's still we're still doing a lot of product refinement and going through. Oh yeah, let the hair down.
The fans want the hair down.
I wish I still had the hair that I could put down.
Yeah.
We're season 3 now, so we're still refining the product a bit. But the initial goal of Academy was to take what we do with college and pro athletes and some high school athletes, but mostly college and pro athletes on the regular floor, and kind of distill it down to younger athletes. There are a million problems with youth baseball, but the biggest ones, well, I guess the biggest ones are probably, I could swear on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
All right, probably like asshole parents, right? Like that, and coaches. That's probably the biggest problem, which I'd love to solve, but that's a little out of my purview. So one of the bigger issues that we set out to solve is so the way youth baseball works, 10, 11, 12U is on like a really small field. 13U, they get a little bit bigger, so it's 54 foot distance for mounds and 80 foot for base paths. Okay. And then 14U, it is full field, 60 and 90. And that the transition from 12 to 13 and 13 to 14, we lose millions of kids every year. And the biggest reason for that is most kids,
millions of kids, like
around the country,
American baseball.
Yep, around the country, American baseball.
They just don't play baseball again.
Yep, they quit playing baseball generally right before they get to 14. Yeah. It's a good amount between 12 and 13, and then a ton between 13 and 14. And that's like they get to the big field for the first time, and they're not. Youth baseball is like very much focused on winning, so they don't develop, the arm strength or the throwing velocity or the exit velocity and bat speed that like you need to throw the ball across the infield on a big field and hit the ball out of the infield on a big field. So a lot of kids get to 14, it's the first time on a big field, and they realize I can only play second base because I can't make that throw across the infield, and I cannot hit a ball out of the infield. And then they just quit. And so youth baseball is very much geared towards like the biological outliers, the kids who are just like bigger early, they get a lot more playing time. Those kids develop a little bit more. And I'm, as a late bloomer myself, who didn't hit 5 foot or 100 pounds until before sophomore year of high school, I got a soft spot for that. So what we do is we take our training of bat speed and throwing velocity as like the 2 core components, and we do it with 10 to 18-year-olds. So we've got about 200 kids and 16 teams that we train out of our Kent facility, and the whole goal is get them to throw it harder and hit the ball harder, swing the bat faster, and then hit the ball harder, as well as teaching some more functional baseball skills. And I think that was, we've evolved a bit as an academy as we get to, from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, and then, I think we'll talk later on the pod about what we're planning for year 4 and everything. But there's a lot of pitfalls here that we've run into of, when college kids or pro guys come here, we don't have to teach them where to be on a cut and a relay, where to be to back up a base, how to play functional baseball. We just get to teach them like how to be better at the specific skills. So
you can containerize it a lot more for like more skilled players.
Right. And like we wound up, teaching kids how to throw it harder and hit it harder, and it worked. And then they'd get to games and other teams would just bunt them to death. And like the tournament landscape with mercy rules, our kids would be getting like 1 at bat in 3 innings because they weren't great defensively, and the other teams would just like bunt for the entire first 2 innings, get like a 10-run lead. And then
they realize that initially?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's just
and also did it carry? Where it's like, the Driveline kids just know how to like,
oh, for sure.
Like throw hard and hit hard, but you can game them on the details.
Right. And we wound up with a reputation, right? So like kids are much less likely to swing against us because they know we train throwing velocity. We're a little bit wilder. Most of our kids, we throw way more breaking stuff than anybody, which is just inherently harder to control. So a lot of kids just like, I'm going to go up there trying to walk, and then we give them the walk. But bunting is extremely common at the youth level. We're the only program that I know of that just totally bans it. It's just not a thing that's allowed to happen. It's a fireable offense. I will fire a coach if they ask a kid to bunt. But like other teams do it all the time. So like if they bunt to lead off the first inning, which is like a relatively common thing that teams do, and we just salad the defense.
Like not just against you in general.
Not just against us, just in general. Like try to get a runner on, try to put some pressure on the defense. It's like a super common thing. And like they might even like show bunt and realize the third baseman didn't crash fast enough or hard enough. Like we might like maybe he doesn't know what he's doing. And then you make one error and they're just like, well, let's do that again. And then 6 months later, 5 runs have scored and it's just like the most frustrating thing in the world because like we and our players because like this is what we teach them. Like our players are sitting there like these kids aren't getting better today. Like, they're not developing any skills that's going to help them be a better high school player, which is, like, our whole goal for all of our kids. We just want you to be competitive on a 60-90 field. And, like, our kids understand why bunting doesn't allow you to do that, so they get really frustrated when these other teams just bunt them to death because nobody got better today. Like, we didn't get better because we got one at-bat. We got Mercer rolled in 3 innings, and they didn't get better. So that was a lot of the issues last year in year 2. So year 3, we added a lot more defense, and not a ton. The way we view it is very much a return on investment. We could spend 6 hours a week. So we've got, generally, depending on the team, like 8 hours of practice a week. Team in the age, it's either 8 or 10 hours. We could spend 6 hours working on defense, and we are still going to make errors. So we're going to work on defense 20% of the time that other programs do. And we might make 50% more errors, and that's like a trade-off I'm definitely willing to do because our kids are going to hit it harder and throw it harder.
Yeah. Do you have a pretty good idea of like the time split for other, or are you just estimating like for other teams?
So a lot of other teams, and I'm relatively estimating. I hear a lot from parents because we get a lot of parents that come here from other programs, and like the biggest reason, honestly, that most of the parents come here isn't the skills that scale. That's like a huge secondary bonus.
They also say defense.
No, it's the coaches. Like they had a really bad experience with the coach. Coach berated kids, whatever. Like we see it all the time. And they just like didn't want to play for that coach anymore. Yeah. And we emphasize development and fun over winning. And like a lot of youth baseball coaches' jobs are based on whether or not they win. Yeah. So like to a degree, I understand why they act that way, and why that's like the focus is that's what's incentivized. But we're just like not that. So a lot of parents come here for that reason, and then wind up like falling in love with like the skill development portion of it, because like their kids just wind up being much better.
I also assume that like the support and communication we give parents like on players' progress and development over the season has got to be
unparalleled.
Yeah.
Right? I talked to
coaches, like, I mean, like, forget about like the stats and stuff. Forget like EV games. Like, I'm like even just like anything besides like Bob
having Slack
out here.
Slack.
Yeah,
right. Like we have
something for them. Yeah,
we have Slack. Parents can DM me. They can DM their coach. We have a feedback form that they can fill out that's posted every week. Yeah. We take a lot of feedback. We implement the good feedback. We acknowledge the bad feedback and tell them why they're maybe wrong. Nobody else does that. And it's a blessing and a curse in some ways because we set like a really high expectation of communication and transparency. And so parents come to expect way more from us as the year goes on than they would ever get or expect from like another organization. But I think that's like a net positive that like we're just expected because we set like a tone up front of like, I send out a message every single Monday with all the information that the parents need to know. The coaches are posting every single Monday in each channel. We have evaluation meetings with the parents and the kids and the coaches at various points through the year where we go over their metrics. We test them every 6 weeks. We retest them every 6 weeks, I should say. We test them once and then retest them every 6 weeks. And like all that information is in TRAQ, so readily available for the parents. And like there is just no one even remotely close to that. And unfortunately, a lot of parents end up taking it for granted, especially ones that have been here for like multiple years. They forget how uncommunicative other organizations are. Whether it's like intentionally uncommunicative because like I don't want to take feedback and like I don't care, you can go somewhere else, or like they just don't have anything to communicate because they're not collecting data or analyzing
don't have
things.
The means, or like aren't organized enough to like even have that be a possibility.
Correct. Like Slack is free, right? Like we're using the free version of Slack, but like anybody could do it. Most places don't. And
So are you doing a lot of the comms? Because I remember when I was sharing a taxi with Devin Morgan, 2022
director of the baseball.
2022 ABCA, and he's like, well, first off, he killed the speech that I mean, he usually kills speeches like that. I think he does like really well. You know, I don't know what fraction, but for sure like a decent delta of our value and like notoriety comes
100%.
from Devin killing it at conferences. But I remember him showing me his Slack with the parents, and it was insane. Like you know, hundreds of fucking DM conversations. I was like, dude, I would absolutely lose my mind.
I get so I have 200 parents, 200 kids.
Yeah.
I will get on average 70 to 100 messages a week from parents.
Okay.
And I try to push as much of it to, and I should say like, those are initial messages that like I'll respond to, and then there's like back and forth in some of them, or not in others.
Conversations, pretty much. Yeah.
Right. So like I talk to probably half of our parents on a weekly basis, and a lot of the communication I do try to push a little bit more to the coaches, but like our coaches aren't equipped to handle some of the questions, and I do want to protect them from a good amount of negative feedback or things like that. I would rather filter that through me.
I say tons of context switching too. Like if you because at least at the director level you have like a broader view of things and can kind of organize and triage stuff.
And I also still coach one of the teams, so it's
nice.
Can be a little sticky as well. With like none of my parents are complainers. And if they are, they would tell me because I have that relationship with all of them because I've coached that team for a couple years now. The only one that complains is Devin because I have his kid. But it can get a little tricky. Like if one of them did want to make a complaint, I get how they would feel a little uncomfortable making that complaint. Yeah. So like I understand like they don't. A lot of parents are really hesitant to complain to the coach because they don't want it to affect their kids' playing time. Right. So they'd rather go to me and have me filter that conversation through to the coach, which most of the time I'm fine with. Some of the conversations I would rather not have. And a lot of it, to be honest, and I don't know if there's any parents listening, so if there are, I'm sorry. Reading comprehension, not super great. For like, I think it's a common thing. But like, I will post Monday all the information they need to know, and probably a third of the messages I get could be answered if they just like read the post that I did, and they just like don't want to read all those words, so they just like will send me a message and I'll just answer very quickly. At the beginning of the year, I kept pointing them to my Monday message and then realized, I'm just going to answer these questions. That's probably quicker. But we have a handbook as well, like a user guide for parents. That's like a living document. So if we get questions pretty frequently, we throw them in there, and we post that every week for the parents as well, so they can kind of get an idea of why we do what we do, and answers to like, what is blast? What is hit tracks? What kind of information are we pulling from this? So hopefully that answers a lot of the questions up front. But I do get a lot of DMs. Yeah.
So maybe you answered this and I missed it, but how many teams do you have right now?
16.
16? Yeah. And then what's like the distribution across age brackets?
Yep. So we've got 7 teams. I was right. 6 from 10, 11, 12. Yeah. We've got 6 at 13, 14. And then we've got 4 at the high school level. We got a 15, a 16, and 2 18s.
Okay. And then for this like coming season, are we like, is that number firm? Are we expanding, contracting? Like, are we doing anything?
It's a really good question.
Team-wise?
It's a really good question. And again, if parents are watching, they're going to need a little preview here. I'm going to do everything in my power to not have 3 teams at one age, which is what I have at 12, 13, 14 right now. Yeah. And it's like a good thing. But 3 teams is tough. The landscape of youth baseball and like Driveline specifically, is this shit only works if you actually show up a bunch and are like actually dedicated and committed to it. And if you take 36 kids instead of 25 or 24, you're going to wind up with, I would say like a third of our kids are just not as dedicated. So attendance isn't as good. And just like they're not.
Culture might not be like as
the culture's not as great, and they're just not developing in the way that the kids who attend frequently are. And so like I would much rather have 2 teams of 14 kids as opposed to 3 teams of 12. And that's kind of what we had this year. And like I am really going to attempt to do everything to not do that. And the other thing is like when I want to have them scrimmage against each other, if I have 3 teams, that makes it a little harder. Like they have to scrimmage against a different age group, and then like that just kind of gets a little tricky too. But we're still going to keep 16 teams. My goal is we have 8 age levels. My goal is just 2 per age level.
Do we have like tryouts or like what's the process there?
It's a great question. So our tryout process is very different than like any other youth baseball tryout, because most of what we get, or most of what the information you get from youth baseball tryout is useless. Like,
what is a regular youth baseball tryout? Just like
so a lot of tryouts, most tryouts, there's no warm up, right? Like they just like you run right into it, which is just great. Most tryouts include a kid throwing off a mound, which also terrible idea.
Yeah.
You don't know how much this kid has been throwing.
Yeah.
Tryouts generally happen in July, maybe June.
That's how you find out, bro. You see if they get hurt, then they don't make the team.
Right.
We need
exactly. Like June and July, you're in the middle of like league and tournament season.
Whoever's not hurt.
Yeah,
whoever's not hurt.
We'll throw you on a mound, right? And then they'll take like 2 rounds of BP where like nothing is. It's just like, did he hit it hard? Yeah. So what we do for our tryout, and then everybody else will hit ground balls and hit fly balls to kids. Yeah. What we do for our tryout is we get them on the force plates. Yeah. That's the first thing they do when they come in is they do jump tests on the force plates. They do counter movement jump. They do squat jump, and they do an RSI on our force plates. And then we get them in the cages, and they're swinging bats with blast sensors and swinging in front of hit tracks. And it's not the most data-driven process, but we just like write down their top 5 bat speeds and top 5 VBs.
I mean, it's data-driven. It's just not the most data.
It's a little bit more manual, right? Of like writing down the top 5 exit velos or whatever, because we're not going to make a hit tracks count for every single kid or a blast count for every single kid. So we write down top 5 bat speeds, top 5 exit velos, so we have an idea of like what this kid looks like swing metric wise, and then we let them play catch. We take them to the J-band station, take them to wrist weights. Ask them the very leading question of, have you ever done any of this before? Yeah. And then what we did last summer, which I think we're going to do again this summer because it was kind of funny, was if they said yes, we just let them do whatever they had been taught to do with J-bands and wrist weights. Always wrong. Like never like proper things that they're doing. Yeah. Like it's just all salad drills or whatever. And then we just get them like throwing into a net in the cage. Yeah. So it's like all we want to know is what are they producing on the force plates? Yeah. Exit velo and bat speed, and like how well do they move as a thrower? Yeah. And then the tryout's over. Like we don't. So it's like an hour max. Yeah. We don't do fielding. Like we don't do a lot of that stuff. Because you can generally get you can iron some of those issues out. Yeah. And we want to know, for team placement, who are the better hitters and better throwers? Yeah. Because those are generally going to be the kids that are better fielders also. Yeah. And you can
probably get I assume you can get some crossover on just general athleticism.
100%.
Like from the force plate stuff, which again at the youth level, I assume is the main thing. That
maps a ton to it. Yep.
That and like some hand-eye coordination and then like learning the position. And
if you watch a kid, if you get a kid on the force plates and you see how much force they're producing, and then you watch them throw and you watch them swing, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what that kid looks like trying to field the ball. Yeah. And like the one thing we won't know is like what kind of routes is he taking to fly balls? Like, we're not going to know that. And like, I'm pretty okay not knowing that. Like, that's not going to be the reason I don't take a kid from tryouts. Yeah. And if there's anybody interested in trying out,
also teachable.
100% teachable. If there's anybody interested in trying out, we really don't cut kids from our tryout process. The only kids that don't make it from our tryout process fall into like 2 buckets. One, it is kids who just have awful attitudes, or whose parents are hovering the entire practice. Because generally the structure is like we take the kids away from the parents. Yeah. We run them through the stations as Devin or I walk all the parents through the facility, give them a tour, kind of explain what the program is, what they can expect. Yeah. And then we get relatively frequently the parent who like tails off from the group to try to like hover over their kid and give them instruction in the cage, and then immediately we're just like, we don't want this person. Like if like you can't follow directions and like you're like, we can reasonably expect that you're gonna do the exact same thing in games or in practices, like like just try to get in the cage with the kid and like that's our job. Like we don't want you doing that. So those are the kids we don't take.
Try to sneak in on the force play when you're not watching.
Yeah,
like the metrics you're
and then they break them, right?
The parents hop jump.
Yeah. I would love to get some of the parents jump testing to see. I think that's what we're gonna do for our end of year party. Let some of the parents try to hit eye pitch and let them do force play jumps and see how bad they are. Yeah. And then the other kind of kids we don't take are kids that are just like so far behind the biological aging curve that it's like there's a worry, like a safety concern.
Yeah.
So like we have a kid who I actually relented and ended up taking. He's a great kid. He tested out athletically on our force plates as around a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
And he's a 14-year-old. He had health issues early in his life.
Yeah.
So he's just like underdeveloped. And I had a bunch of people come to me with like a massive plea of like, he's a great kid. You got to let it, like, you should really like rethink that or whatever. So I did. And he is a great kid. He's probably not going to play high school baseball, but he's like a great addition to that roster and like is a really positive force of energy on that team.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we took him, but like those are the only kids we don't take, are the kids that are just like very far behind the curve, where it's just like, if we did this, it would just be to take your money. Like we can't make your kid competitive at his age. He's like already way too far behind the curve, and we're not just going to like take your money and tell you we can't do that. But there's like very few kids that really fall into that bucket.
Yeah.
Because if they want it bad enough, like we can make them a lot better. And that's like why we don't cut kids, is if we know we can develop kids. So cutting especially like a 10 or 11 or a 12-year-old, you don't know what that kid's going to look like when he's 15. And like, if we push him away from baseball, because if we don't want him, chances are no other select team is going to take him. So he's not playing travel baseball. And like, who knows what that kid looks like when he's 15? And maybe he's not playing baseball and he's like a stud athlete and we just lost one. Yeah. Now, having said that, we are pretty quick to remove kids from the academy. So we don't cut kids, but we don't have a whole lot of tolerance for kids who don't take the program seriously. Because they kind of bring down the whole training group.
Right.
So that's like a thing early in the year that we are.
Do you have like guardrails? Like if they miss like X% of
Yep. So we've got attendance guardrails. Those are a little bit trickier because we encourage multi-sport athletes. We want them to be playing multiple sports. So we've got like present and then excused and unexcused.
Yeah.
And our rule is like you can't have more than 10% of unexcused absences.
Yeah.
So if like you're not going to be here, you have to let the coach know that you're not going to be here and why. So like if you're playing another sport, they give us the schedule so if they're playing football, they give us their football schedule in like September so that we know, okay, they're not going to be here for these practices. So we have an idea. But we have attendance thresholds for sure for a lot of the kids. And then we've got a Slack channel that is in the regular Driveline Slack that anytime an issue happens with a kid or a parent, it gets posted in there, and there's like a 3-strike policy where if a kid gets posted in there once, depending on the severity of it, I will have a conversation with the kid. If it's twice, then it's parent and kid. And if it happens, and it's made pretty clearly known, these are the 2 documented instances. If there's another, we're not going to continue.
Yeah.
And then if there's a third, we don't continue.
Yeah.
And that more often than not. So I've kicked out 3 kids this year. 3 kids. 3, almost 4.
Okay.
All of them were the parents and not the kids.
And did the parents know that?
Yep. Yeah, I'm very upfront. I tell them when they leave.
What was their reaction? You don't have to go in. You don't have to. Like, but I'm curious. Is it like acceptance? Is it like denial? Is it like do you think they like learn anything from it, or are they still like, oh yeah, like this fucking coach is wrong? I
will say one of them. The first one I did learn something from it, and that was one that I felt like I was doing a little bit of a favor. It was a 14-year-old who I had known for a while, and like, there's like a lot of kids who just don't want to be here, and their parents want to be here. And like, dad played high-level baseball, really wants this for his kid, and the kid doesn't want it, and there's just like a very big disconnect. So I knew I was doing the kid a favor by like saying like, we're not going to continue with this, and the parents were just like causing a ton of problems. And then they immediately regretted it, like had massive regrets. And like, it is what it is. Yeah. They found another team to play for. And like, we've seen them a couple times out there, and they tell us how much they miss us. And it's like, and there's no bad blood between me and them, but the other 2 parents did not learn anything. It was only like a month ago. So maybe, but like, I doubt it. They're just parents who, it's like one of the things that we're pretty upfront with.
You got bounties out on you, bro.
Oh, probably.
We got bounties.
Probably. We're pretty upfront with the fact that like we're never ever gonna guarantee or even like tell you that we think your kid can go play college baseball or pro baseball. Our goal is to get you competitive at high school. After that, anything can happen. But like, we just want you to be a competitive high school player. And we had parents of 11, 12, 13-year-olds who were like, my child is a surefire D1 athlete, and you aren't giving you're giving attention to too many kids on the team that aren't surefire D1 athletes at 11 years old. So I'm just going to assume that they did not learn, and but it was all the parents, not the kids. I haven't had to kick out a kid for behavior issues.
Unless you're like Bryce Harper, you're like not a surefire D1 athlete until you're like 17.
Yeah, we don't have those. We don't have a Bryce Harper here.
Yeah. But I mean in general for any sport, like you just like don't like.
There's no way you know.
Skill gap is so huge,
right?
Like
and
from
both
high school
dads,
to college, it's so huge.
Both dads were D1 basketball players.
Yeah.
So both of them felt like because I was, he has my genetics, so he's a surefire D1 athlete in whatever sport he wants to do it. And it's like that is not how this works. And like consequently, neither of those. There were 3 kids with the 2 parents, and none of them were hard workers. And it was just like, that's kind of the biggest thing you need if you're going to be a D1 athlete. Like it has nothing, like biology helps, but like if you don't work that hard, like you're not going to get anywhere. It doesn't matter how big and strong you are. If you're not actually working in the weight room, you're going to get passed up by a lot of kids who want to weigh more.
I've seen you guys do like a couple like games and stuff too, to like warm up and whatnot. Is that like still something you guys do? Like, I mean, like some of it's like catching footballs or catching like stuff.
So our warm-ups are really different from what most, like that's one of the first things that I coach one of the teams. I get a lot of questions about our warm-up in the outfield because like we'll show up to a tournament and every other team's doing the running poles thing, and we're doing somersaults in the outfield, some weird shit, right? And like people always are just like,
that coach is racked out,
right? Like what are they doing? Like that's not gonna get them warmed up. And it's like, well, I have actual evidence that warms them up way better than running poles does. And then like we always do J-bands, wrist weights, and plyos before we do catch play. Nobody else really does that. I shouldn't say nobody. You're starting to see it a little bit more at the youth level, which is like a really cool thing as a driveline person to see. Like it's getting out there a lot more. They're not necessarily doing the correct drills, but like at least they're trying and like they're using J-bands, they're using some plyos.
Do you guys go? How heavy do you guys go on the plyos for youth? Does anybody use like green or black ball?
Yeah, so all of our kids 13 and up use green for reverse.
Okay.
And then 15U and up use pink for reverse.
Okay.
But we don't do the heaviest they'll go is blue for pivot picks.
Okay.
But that's generally what they'll do. They'll do red and blue. I only take red, blue, and green to games.
Yeah.
And like 13, 14 coaches only take red, blue, green. They go through a few plyo drills and then they throw.
Nice. Are we developing any specific academy products from the like training product point of view?
Yes.
We talked about a couple things. We talked about like, I mean, the Plyomat stuff is not just academy, but like
the Plyomat. We are still attempting to find a good solution for that.
Yeah.
The problem is the portability. Like the thickness you need. Like we're fine with 10, 11, 12-year-olds, but like we got a 15U kid who throws 87 and like he's just wrecking every Plyomat we send out there, and like people don't love us throwing plyos into fences most of the time. So that can get a little tricky. So we are testing out a bunch of different styles and like thicknesses of Plyomats to see if anything works, and still just like prototype phasing, just like trying a bunch of different things out. We are working with Asst to develop some better youth bat speed trainers. Like youth skinny bats. That are a little bit more geared towards young athletes. Like our 13-year-olds can swing regular skinny bats, but like our younger athletes struggle to a little bit because it is, it's basically the weight of their bat. So that should be coming out fairly soon.
Which by the way, I don't think you were at least not full-time academy at this point, but shout out to like youth heavy bat usage because it helped us collect enough data for the DSG bat fitting algorithm. Which Dan and I put together in like January 2022. But like we had like, you guys probably swung, off the top of my head, you guys probably swung like 30 or 40K swings with like 600 bats.
Yeah, we were out there.
Yeah. Because and every day I was like, all right, like we got this like rotation of bats, like D Morgan, like give me all you got, like tell me what I can provide, like I'll grab bodies from like R&D, whatever, hitting floor, whatever. But that was really clutch, and I mean, like that research is like currently running in like DSG pilot stores, you know, like people are coming in, grabbing 3 bats, swinging, have like bat speed and EV and everything piping in, and our recommendation algorithm like tells him like what bat to use.
Yep, and that's one of the cool things for like the kids and the parents, and for like us as a staff, is that they know there are various times where we're going to do some research, and like, I think that's one of the things that a lot of parents really love about Driveline is that there's nobody on our academy staff that is claiming to know how to do this. We're just like, we're gonna find out. We're like, if you have a question and I don't already have an answer for it, I'll try to find it out. Right. Like, and I think that really appeals to a lot of parents, specifically with regards to like arm care stuff. We're extremely cautious with arm care. We get a lot of kids that come here that got overused and wind up with like Little League elbow, Little League shoulder. And then they come here and it's just like night and day. We're like, we have an 85 pitch max. Most people, like most tournaments we play in, it's pitch smart recommended. So they don't hold anybody to anything, but they recommend that you follow the pitch smart guidelines. And like our guidelines that we give to coaches are way stricter than what pitch smart does.
And I know Devin, I was helping Devin with some ideas too about like reformatting pitch smart under the context of what our actual pulse metrics are for youth, which obviously measures arm stress, arm speed, arm slot, and having like a more because pitch smart is very very generic, very
and it doesn't take into account warm up throws, and like no kid, depending on the age, but like no kid specifically 13 and under who pitches is just not going to play the rest of that day.
But even and
they
also
pitch, they go play shortstop. Maybe they go catch, right? Like that's a lot more throws that you're not counting in pitch smart.
It doesn't count everything, and also doesn't count any other context. It doesn't count like how big the kid is, how many throws he's had over the last week, over the last
the month, RP of the throws.
Right,
exactly. Like most of my kids, I coach one of our 14U teams. I have 10 kids right now on my regular roster, which is we do have a very small roster at that age. 9 of them throw at least 70. The one that doesn't is just turned 13 like a month ago. So he's like real young to be on that team. And he's still throwing 65, even though he's under 5 feet. I don't let them throw over 80% in games. So like that is, we know you guys can all throw. Like Devin Sundani is up to 79 in here.
Fucking insane.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
He's 14.
14.
Yeah, but he's like 5'3", right? But he's up to 79 with nasty breaking stuff. And I just like, I don't let him throw over 80% more than 5 times a game. So like when you need it, reach back and go for 100%. But I want you to go deep in this game, and you got to learn how to like pace yourself and throw at 80%. So like that makes a difference for throws too, right? Like my kids' RPE is relatively low on most of their throws. So I probably could push them farther than I do, but it's just like when Danny comes out of the game, Devin's son Danny, he's probably playing shortstop. The next day he's probably catching. Like he's playing a premium position somewhere. And like, my next best pitchers are also a catcher, a third baseman, a center fielder, like positions that are going to make a lot of throws. So like we have a big tournament coming up this weekend. If we do well, we might end up we're playing at least 4, maybe 7 games in 3 days. So it's like, I'm limiting everybody to 70 pitches. Cause like we have 6 more games to play this weekend. Like I'm not going to let you throw 95 pitches on Saturday, knowing that we have all of Sunday and then potentially Monday to play some games here. And like you just go out there to these tournaments and you watch other kids and other teams throw 120, 130 pitches, and it's just like,
one thing you said early on, I was gonna loop back on. You said how you had that growth spurt late. You were under 5 feet. Is that why you got into being a mascot in high school?
So I desperately wanted to be a mascot in high school. Desperately. I couldn't tell you why. Like, I don't remember why. I thought it was funny, I think, is probably what it was. Because there was, like, no way I could fit into that costume. Like, just no shot. And I was on the basketball team freshman year, but did get a 0 minutes because, I was under 5 foot.
So McDonald's has some...
we didn't blow anybody out enough to put me in. So I basically sat at the end of the bench and helped keep the stats, which was just a really fun year that I didn't repeat sophomore year. And then baseball was like similar. Like I played travel, and hit at the top of the lineup for my travel team, but like high school, they just like wanted the big kids. So like I didn't get a whole lot of playing time early, and then ended up getting into a fight with the coach and not like playing a ton of high school baseball and just playing travel baseball basically through high school instead. But the mascot thing, so I desperately wanted to do it. I think what it was the person, like, you know, when you're a freshman, you have like orientation at high school, and there's like an incoming senior, whatever, that walks you around right before your freshman year. She was incredibly attractive. And she was a cheerleader, right? And like to try out for mascot, it was a cheerleader.
So you're trying to split game as a freshman?
Yeah.
On a
yes, I was.
Okay.
As a 4'10" freshman,
Baby.
who definitely had a high pitched voice because I hadn't really hit puberty yet. And like the mascot was a cheerleader.
Yeah.
So like you had to go to the cheerleading tryouts.
Like the physical person in the mascot was a cheerleader.
And because like
it was like a girl or like a male?
It was a male, but he practiced with them. But it turned out he was, because I didn't know who it was at the time. He was a junior, so he wasn't going anywhere. And then we didn't have any male cheerleaders.
Yeah.
So the only male cheerleader was the mascot.
Yeah. So
I showed up, and there was no position to try out for, and I was really bummed. But it was definitely because the girl was really attractive, and I was just like, this seems like a good idea. And then it just kind of became a running joke that I was just like, oh man, someday.
Yeah.
And then I got to college.
I didn't realize okay.
It was in college.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was in college.
Yeah, so I got to college and wound up becoming a mascot for the Golden Gopher basketball team at the University of Minnesota.
Okay.
Go Ghosts. Did it all 4 years. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. You sweat a lot. That costume smells awful. And like I would way rather do it for an outdoor sport. Well, I guess not baseball. Like in the summer, it's probably terrible. Yeah. But like inside a basketball arena, man, it's just like I would wear like a camelback. In the costume. I remember talking and just about like this. When finish like 2 liters of water every half. Yeah.
Yeah. No. When I need to prep for my own mascot adventure, which I mean for people, I mean I mentioned it probably on one podcast at least, but I was a mascot for my friend's sister's wedding. Like July 2021, the bride and groom are both like huge wazoo heads.
So you were cool.
They contacted like Bert the Cougar or Butch the Cougar. Jesus, I'm already less than 2 years out, bro. I'm already sausaging it.
I think Bert is a better name personally,
it's
but
Bert when I do it. They like reached out and the dude I think wanted like to be put up in like a hotel room, paid for travel, paid like $1,000 or something. And my friend Scott's just like, why don't you just like ask Alex to do it? And then they asked me, and I was like, like absolutely. Like, A, that sounds really fun. B, like I'm down to get invited at a wedding. That wedding's gonna be really fun because they're both pretty big party animals. And they bought the Butch the Cougar outfit the day before. Like the wedding was on the bride's parents' like lawn. Like they were like they lived on a lake. They were like lake taps, and they had a boat. So we planned to like sneak off during the speeches, go to my friend's cousin's house, like coming on the boat, and I'd be chilling under like out of view, and like Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne would come on, and I just like pop out, hit the walk, hit the dance floor, do some random shit. Like I was winging like everything, but like we just did one dry run with the boat because the sketchy thing is, I mean, also you can't see anything. You can't see anything at all. So like the did I ever show you the video? I'll show you the video after, but like when you walk onto the pier, like it's kind of sketchy. Like if I like miss by like 8 inches either way,
you're
like,
in the water.
Like, so I just gotta land that. So I just practiced that one time, and then we did it, and I mean I knew nothing about school spirit. Like I got on the dance floor, and immediately people were like started chanting some like school spirit song. So I just freeballed it. I just kind of ran around, did some like really bad like breakdancing pseudo stuff. But people were like losing it. People were getting hyped. My friend just texted me a couple weeks ago saying like,
bring it back.
Like, well, kind of. He was saying how like some of his sister's friends had framed pictures of me or of them with me, like me in a mascot thing, on their walls, and like check this out. Like just at a random.
So good.
Dude, like I don't even know who this girl is, and like they didn't know who I was either. Like
they probably thought you were the real.
The only I don't know what they, I don't know if they thought that for sure. I think they probably thought that, but besides the bride's family, and the groom, and then like my friend's like girlfriend, nobody else knew it was me. Like I but also the main thing, bro, yeah, I smelled so bad.
Yeah.
And then like people were like random grandmas, bridesmaids were like taking pictures with me. So I'd pause. And like in that moment, I'm pausing and kind of posing for the photo. I'm just like getting the fumes from my pitch. And I'm just like, oh man.
You get it, but they don't. Right? It doesn't go really through the costume, so they can't smell it as much. But like, it's nauseating.
Oh yeah, 'cause I was like, dude, no way they don't have a reaction. But in my mind, I was just like, oh my God. Yeah. And then when I took it off, I was supposed to do it for like an hour and a half, like 2 hours. I don't know. But like 45 minutes in, bro, I'm just dripping. And cause I'm dancing almost fully nonstop, you know? And it's outside, but still I'm going, like, I'm just absolutely soaked. And at one point, like, and like the dad was like dapping me up every time. He's like, yo, you're killing it. And then at one point I was just like, I gotta get out of here, man. He's like, you sure? I was like, yeah, dude, I need to take a shower. Yeah. So I like bounced, took the, like, it literally felt like I had just come out of like a hot yoga session or something, like just soaked, you know, just showered for like 18 minutes.
It was one of those Forrest Gump things where like halftime happens and like we all like the group of mascots left and went to the like our mascot locker room or whatever, and it's just like, all right, we all strip off all the clothes that are just like soaked and like just clinging to our body and just put on clean clothes like Forrest Gump. A dry pair of socks does everything. Like change of socks, change of underwear, change of shirt.
I mean, it does do wonders. It does.
It's amazing. Like it makes you feel a lot better going into the second half. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but it's way more work than you think it is.
For sure.
Yeah, they're heavy.
Yeah.
They're heavy costumes.
Yeah.
But
what about your TriviaMaster background?
Yeah, so I
was bummed you weren't, because I would have been down this week.
I know.
You know who I'd have invited? Melanie. If you were you have 2 hours. You have 2 hours to set up a trivia, bro.
Well, it's funny. They texted me earlier today. I can't do it tonight, but they asked me to do it tonight. To do one tonight downtown. So yeah, I started. So like I worked in professional baseball for the first 6 years after I graduated college, and 3 of them I was in minor leagues in like a dugout on a coaching staff. So kind of ends in like October. Whether or not you have instructs, maybe it ends in September. And I was just like kind of home for the off season. So I was substitute teaching, living with mom. I know you're not watching this, but thank you for the free rent. I love you.
Send her a link, bro. We need more female.
Send her a link. All right, I got you. She doesn't even watch my youth baseball podcast.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
I'll throw her to click on it. So at least there's like.
Yeah. Do you know what the demographics are for you guys? Like, have you looked at like?
Devin does all that.
But like it goes on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Yeah. You guys should look at Anchor Bay.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's a couple sites, but it does like the female demographic or overall demographics. I think
I handed out my phone number and I didn't have any females call me. So I imagine our demographics are relatively similar to yours.
That's before the mascot stories.
That's true.
That's true.
We'll see. That's true. That's true. This is the clip we're gonna put on.
Drop your number. Drop your number.
425-227-9076. Come get it. I am single. No. But yeah, I started, so like I was in the off season, I was substitute teaching. There was I'm originally from Chicago, so I was living in the Chicago area. So there was a side job I had that was mowing lawns on a golf course, which is like the most relaxing, best side job you could have as long as you're okay waking up at the ass crack of dawn. But obviously you can't do that in the winter in Chicago. So I was looking for like something else to get out of my mom's basement and just like do something. And I was playing trivia every week. I'm a big trivia nerd. I have always enjoyed it. I literally everywhere I go, that's like one of the first things I do to try to find some sort of social life. Because if you don't know this, working in professional baseball can be hard to have a social life. So especially like social life with people that aren't the people you work with, right? Exactly. Like, and like you want to hang out with those people.
For me, it's that and volleyball teams. Like I did the same thing when I started moved to Seattle. I was on like 3 volleyball teams.
Yeah, just like rec sports stuff like that.
And like the dude who got me in that wedding, like I met him through volleyball.
Yeah, that's like the easiest way to do it for sure. So yeah, I was playing a bunch of trivia, and I was at this one bar in Chicago, and people were getting upset because it was a $50 prize for first place in both games, and I was just walking away with $100 every week. Me and 3 friends, and like people were accusing us of cheating. There was some stuff going on, and so like I got close with the host.
Yeah,
because he would come over and be like, "Are you guys cheating?" It's like, no, all of our phones are like not out. Yeah. Like we're not cheating. We're just like actually legitimately good at trivia.
Yeah.
And so he threw out the idea of like me becoming a trivia host, and I was like, now that sounds fun. That sounds like a fun side job. and that was 2017. And so I just it's Sporkle is the company that I still work for. I'm still employed as like a sub host. So if you've ever done like a Sporkle quiz on Sporkle.com, they also do live pub trivia.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it in 2017, and just like this is a lot of fun to do as a side job.
So all of them that you do are through Sporkle? Because I've done like a good number of trivia stuff. I mean, I've been a couple of years.
Like the Geeks Who Drink there's a million there's a million of them, but like
I didn't realize. Yeah, I mean, I guess I've done so many that they kind of blend together. I didn't realize they were like specifically through Sporkle. So is Sporkle the one that mainly does like the? I mean, they don't do just like it's not just one like format, right? Because I've been ones that do like the weight, like you choose.
Sporkle's the same format every time.
So that Sporkle is the one that where you're like, I want to bet this amount for this. Okay, that's always
and there might be other with a similar, but like Sporkle is probably the biggest one that does that.
Okay.
And they're all around the country, right? So that was an easy thing for me. Whenever I moved to a new city for Pro Bowl, it was just like, oh well, like I will tell Sporkle I'm moving, and they'll find me a location to do it in Florida or Arizona or wherever I'm living. And it worked out really well. Like it's just the best side job ever because you get paid to read questions condescendingly like Alex Trebek and get, depending on the bar, well, it's always free drinks, and then depending on the bar, they'll give you food too. Yeah. So it's just like, there's nothing better.
It's fun.
Than getting paid.
I mean, I think one of the first times you were doing trivia and when I was trying to
bribe me. Yep.
I was trying to bribe you. Well, I was trying to wingman you too.
Yeah.
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 So I'm saying it's also potentially a good.
Always.
A good way to meet.
And it changed, right?
People.
COVID changed it a decent amount. Because like I think honestly, the last time you probably came to one of my trivias, it was paper.
I think I went to one in. What's that? Oh, flat stick or right?
So okay, so that was on your phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so like now after COVID,
angles.
Yeah. You did trivia. Yeah. I remember that. So now it's switched to like a mobile format, which is just like way less social for me. Which is one of the reasons that plus being at the academy every night that I just like kind of gave it up because it was just like. Stop being social because I'm just like kind of sitting at a table checking people's answers as opposed to like walking around collecting slips of paper talking to people.
Sending in paper is way more fun.
Yes. Yeah. But it was it's a great side job. I
also harder to cheat. Like people are just going on their phone.
Oh yeah, it's really easy to cheat if people are on their phone because like they have to be on their phone. One of them does. And like I'm not walking around looking like, oh, two people have their phones out. One of you might be cheating. Like it's bar trivia. I don't care that much.
Also just like I mean, not trying to be pedantic about it, but it's like it's 2023. Like part of the reason of doing things is like to get like not be on your phone. Like if you're doing a social activity, have to be a social activity.
100%.
No, that, I remember one random funny trivia story. I mean, I'm
when I hosted Driveline trivia during COVID multiple times.
Oh yeah. That
Shout out to Joe Marsh on the winning team every single time. We switched up teams and he was on the winning team every single time.
I feel like I only did that once. I know C did it a couple times.
Schofield was big.
Oh yeah. And Starwall too, right?
Well, he was the famous story.
He was a what?
He was the famous one, right? Where he made his name Butt Chugs for trivia.
Yeah.
And then we had like a really important all hands meeting the next morning, and he forgot to change his name on Zoom.
That was hilarious. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I love Starwall. I was gonna say there was one. Well, one of the best trivia things I've done in Seattle was Optimism Brewing. I used to have a Harry Potter trivia. And I'm a big Harry Potter head. Like my trivia skills are very.
We were probably at the same one.
We probably
was it like a Halloween one?
I forget the Halloween. Like I went to a couple. There was one that was like a legit, really good Harry Potter one that had like 30 something total points you could get.
Yep.
And there were people that had like they went 35 or 35.
Yeah.
It's
nuts.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm a big Harry Potter head, and one of Engelbrecht is also a big Harry Potter head. And then like the girl I was seeing at the time who like knew a bit, and then her friend who was just like drunk, not like engaged on the Harry Potter stuff, kind of being a little bit bratty, and she got us kicked out because she was on her phone and she wasn't contributing anything. She was like kind of like whining, whatever. Like it was funny, like it wasn't like it was well at least for me it was more funny. Maybe Engels was annoyed, but Engels was probably annoyed.
Maybe,
but like someone was walking by and just bounced us, and I was like, "Yo, we're killing it!" Like she's not even fucking talking to us. She's just being on her phone because she doesn't want to do it.
My college roommate is the brewmaster at Optimism.
Yeah.
So he's the one who makes all the beer there. So that's a place I frequent. Optimism Brewing in Seattle.
Yeah.
Swing by. And I saw there was a Harry Potter trivia. I'm also a huge Harry Potter fan. I told him like I'm gonna show up at the Harry Potter trivia and like I'm gonna bring a date. And he was like, I don't think you want to do that. And I was like, what do you mean? And it was like right around Halloween. And he's like, I don't think. It was it had to have been 2019.
Okay. Because honestly, no, I think if I did a Halloween Harry Potter trivia, I would have done it in 2018. Okay. I would have done it in 2018.
Yeah, that was too early for me. I wasn't out here yet. But yeah, it was, and he was like, I don't think you want to do that. And I was like, nah, how bad could it be? He's like, it's like super intense. Like there's a lot of really hard questions about Harry Potter. Like this isn't like regular general Harry Potter trivia. This is like insanely specific. And like there's going to be a costume contest. And like, I don't know, that's a great first date thing. And he was right. Never saw that girl again. But it was fun to play trivia and see all the people in their costumes. I brought my wand that I have, my interactive wand that I got at the Harry Potter World in Orlando.
You know my go-to Harry Potter, like kind of casual trivia question I would hit people with? I'm not gonna. I haven't done this in like years, so I'm not gonna phrase it as well as I would then. But I would always ask, what are like the two? Like, give me. I guess you can say like give me at least one. But there's like 2 to 3 things, 2 to 3 very loud hints that Harry is in love with Ginny in book 6 before like the big reveal. I don't know how well you know book 6. Yeah. Like the ones that probably know the best are honestly book 5 and book 6. And I know people like I'm not like obsessed with like ranking the books or whatever. I kind of have like some tiers, and I've talked about it with a couple people. Like I guess I rate book 6 pretty low compared to most people. Like Angles thought like it's crazy. Like I rate book 6 as like one of the 2 or 3 like lowest books. Okay. Just from a quality point of view, to me, I just feel like J.K. Rowling kind of mailed it in a little bit to bridge the gap. Okay. Like, there's a couple things that like, don't make sense. I think like some of the stuff is rushed. There's a heavy info dump through all the pensive flashbacks and everything. But it's a very enjoyable read because Harry like I think from book 5 on, like they're actually like borderline adults. Like they start. Oh yeah, like
that's when that's when it flips. Right? Yeah,
they have like complicated emotions, whatever. Before like the first couple books, Harry's just like, yo, what the fuck is going on? Right. Voldemort's trying to kill me. And I was like, yo, these classes are crazy. Why does Snape hate me? Like still very entertaining, but it's more like kind of.
And that's like, say what you want about J.K. Rowling, because I probably agree with what you're going to say about J.K. Rowling, but like she did a really cool thing of like, as the characters got older, the writing style got older. Yeah. And like aged with the characters and became more mature as they went on.
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything about J.K. Rowling, bro.
Other people do. And like, I understand.
Yeah. I don't even like. I'm not even up to date too much of. I know the general sentiment of some of the stuff I get.
I don't think there's anything new.
But I'm just like, yeah.
Do you know they're coming out with a new HBO Max show?
No,
they're coming out with a Harry Potter TV show. I think.
I mean, I saw stuff about it. Yeah, but I haven't seen any details.
Which is something I've been asking for forever.
Yeah,
because like I want them to actually do it. Yeah. Like I don't dislike the movies.
The movies are tough to be fans of if
you love the books. The movies are tough.
Every single movie has stuff missing from it.
Yep, and stuff added that shouldn't have been in it.
Yeah, and also like a big chunk of the appeal of the books is to me it has always been like the characters are like they're so empathetic. You like get immersed in the world. It's like they're long reads again, like especially the second half of the series. So it's like it's not about like sure like obviously they're plot driven, but like in reality if you think about like the plot, like the plots get a little bit more complicated and like. From book 5 on, but like the first couple books is almost like Harry starts the school year. There's like a couple subplots, and then it culminates with like a showdown with like either Voldemort through some form or like a proxy servant. Like the plots are very, and then Harry escapes, and like learns like 10% more about his background. Like the plots are like nothing crazy. It's like the characters like getting immersed in the actual world, like the world building. Is really.
I always wondered it must have been weird for people who only watch the movies to like watch Neville watch like Neville Longbottom.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too.
Because like I like it's hard for me to like remove the books.
Yeah.
But like I feel like in the movies he just went from like nothing to like someone immediately, and there wasn't like a whole lot of context as like how that happened or like why that happened, and like.
In the movie, this actor just got hot all of a sudden.
I know, and they were like, "What do we do? Like, this is like we got to get some fake teeth on you, like, right?
Run back the
right? Yeah."
Well, also as a tangent to this tangent, I'm always kind of critical of movies if I'm a big fan of the books. Yeah, because it's hard not to. The only ones that I actually think the movies like the movie, same thing with Game of Thrones. I was a huge Game of Thrones series fan.
Yep.
And then like the TV show obviously had so much acclaim, so much popularity. But even for me, like watching, I was just like, like I think like, I don't really think like Ned comes off exactly like that, or
Sure.
like, whatever.
Yep.
Like the one series that I actually legitimately like the movies better than the books, that I like still like the books the first time I read them, is Hunger Games. For some reason, like I just think Hunger Games like plays better cinematically than like
So Hunger Games I never actually read.
yeah.
I listened to the series on my drive to spring training one of the years when I drove from Illinois all the way to Florida.
Yeah.
I like listened to the books.
They're pretty.
But
young
I'd already
adultish.
seen the
They're
movies.
pretty young adultish. Like if you didn't
Yeah.
read them, that also might be part of the reason. Like, I read the first one. I think I read the first one before the movies, but like I still read them like later on in life than I read like Harry Potter. So it's just like I'm like
exactly.
Like, the writing is like whatever.
Right.
It's like very plot driven. So the movie like plays well.
Right.
Because it's just like very clear she's got to survive.
And Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah. But what I was gonna say, so book 5 and book 6, I'm like a huge fan of like the world kind of expanding, the characters getting a bit more mature. So I've read them quite a bit. But the trivia thing is, what are a few of the giveaway signs? You can name one. There's like 2 firm ones in my mind, and there's one you could technically maybe argue for. What is one of the couple giveaway signs that Harry is like in love with Ginny before like it's very obvious? And I think the time when it's very obvious is when he takes the lucky potion, and he's trying to find out like Slughorn's memory.
Yep.
That's like tainted when he has those memory sessions with Dumbledore. He takes a lucky potion, he's kind of just walking around, and he's like under an invisibility cloak. And he, by the way, this podcast is
Derailed. Totally off the rails.
I hope we got some HP fans that are getting a kick out of this, bro. Most people are like, shut the fuck up. But he's walking around under an invisibility cloak, and he like brushes like Dean and Ginny getting back into the main tower, and like Ginny thinks like Dean pushed her, and she just goes off on him. She's like, Dean, you're always pushing me. What the fuck? And they have like a mini fight, and
Harry's like happy about it.
Yeah, Harry's like yo, and then it's really obvious.
Yeah.
So before that happens, can you think of one of the 2 main signs?
There was one in Hogsmeade where he was like watching her sit with somebody else at a table.
I think you're thinking about yeah. When for the first Defense Against the Dark Arts recruiting thing.
Yes.
So
where you could just tell there's like jealousy.
Well, that's in book 5. That's in book 5.
Okay.
Maybe we're thinking about something different. I mean, maybe that's one of the answers. That's not one of the answers I'm thinking about. I'll give you an example of one of the ones.
Okay.
Both of them come like, because if you remember book 6, I actually forget exactly where he was. I think he went back to I think he was at a burrow. Book 5 he's at like the Grimmauld place.
Yep.
Book 6 he's at the burrow, and he was hanging out a bunch of Ginny. And then like when they get on the Hogwarts Express, they're like looking and Hermione and Ron are like prefects or whatever,
right.
So they got a report. And he's like, yo, Ginny, let's go get like a whatever room to chill in. And she's like, oh, I said I had to like meet Dean or something. And there's like a moment where he's like, oh, what the? He's like,
yeah, he's
in his mind, he's like, I guess I just got used to kicking up Ginny all the time. Like, I forgot we don't really kick it at school. Like that's one of them. And then the second one happens later that day on like the first day of classes. New class new teacher teaching this class.
Okay, so it's potions.
Yeah.
Was it a love potion? Is that when they make the love potion on the first? Yeah, Slughorn makes a love potion on the first day. And is it like does he make it like a comment like he hopes Ginny?
Kinda, yeah. Like Slughorn has like a bunch of potions made. One of them is the lucky potion one,
right.
Love potion. Another one's like I forget which one. Maybe like the one at Versatarium that made him one.
Okay, yeah.
There's like the Intriguum and stuff. And he like walks by it and smells it. And then he's
gets the scent of Ginny.
Yeah. But he doesn't realize it's a scent of Ginny.
Right.
He's like, it smells like something kind of flowery. He thinks he smelled the burrow. And then like 5 pages later, he like runs into Ginny like out on the hallway. And he's like, no, I think I smell that same thing.
Yeah.
That's
a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It just takes a lot of time for the setup. You know what I mean?
It does.
But like that's
she knew where she was going.
Yeah. But like every time I read those books, like that stuff always pops out of me. I'm always like, all right, like that's like a very like upon rereading, it's like a very obvious clue.
Yeah.
And then like boom, and then like all right, like Harry's in love with Ginny.
Yep.
Yeah. Because to be honest, I do think it's a little like I honestly am not sure. I feel like there's like a chance like J.K. Rowling didn't think too much about like what Harry's love interests were gonna be. I know she later said like she wishes like Harry and Hermione had somehow gone together. Like, have you seen her say that?
No.
I mean, forget about everything else. That's one thing I'll criticize J.K. Rowling for.
Yeah.
She just like doesn't rest on the canon. You know, it's like it's canon. Like don't
Yeah.
Like what? Like now whatever happened. You know, you wrote it. You know. But
and nobody was complaining about that.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the other thing. But I always feel like she was kind of like degaffing about like Ginny was crushing on Harry when they were young.
Oh yeah,
in the first couple books, and then Harry had the thing with Cho across like book 4, book 5, and then like all of a sudden book 6, it's like okay, like now I think it can be realistic. He turned like 16, whatever,
right.
But it's like I almost feel like she was like like Harry will end up with like someone at some point, or like, oh maybe he'll end up with Cho. It's like actually I don't really like that, And then book 6, like all right. Harry's got to get a girlfriend. Might as well make his best friend's
best friend's sister. Yeah. Why not? Why not? Yeah.
But anyways, probably gonna start wrapping it. I was gonna say so hit me with like are there any exciting or new changes for the product like this coming fall?
Yeah, for sure. I know this is on your list that we didn't get to, but we're opening an AZ. Yeah, we have an AZ Academy that's opening up in August. Evals are fully booked out. We already have about half of the teams or half the kids committed, and the teams being built.
Is there a difference? Because I think there is, but I don't even know for my own EDU. Is there a difference in like the structure and how stuff?
A bit, yeah. The schedule is very different, right?
More like camp.
No. But the schedule is just really different because obviously they're not playing a ton. Like their main season is gonna be in the fall, not in the middle of the summer when it's ungodly hot in Phoenix. So it's just like a massively different schedule. So they're gonna do our yearly training plan, our YTP. They're gonna map that to just like the different phases of the year down there. So it's a little bit more difficult to like try to figure out when to do the velo phase. Like we're pretty easy, right? Like we don't play fall ball, so we on ramp in October, and then we jump into the velo phase in fall instead of right after that, instead of like doing anything else. And then we really don't start focusing on gameplay and competition stuff until January. Once we're getting calendar turns, we're a little closer, and they don't have that luxury because they got to play games immediately in the fall, and then they play high school in the spring. So like really the only time they have for like development is summer, which is hot. So like not a ton of kids are getting on fields. And the probably one of the biggest differences is the size of the facility, right? Like it's a pretty small operation down there. We've got a lot more cages up here than we have down there, so it's a little bit harder to like figure out scheduling and making sure like rep volume is consistently high. That's like one of the things, one of our KPIs is the amount of batted ball events per practice that the kids have. And so we want to make sure that we're still maintaining that, which is just tough when you have one hitting cage basically and one throwing cage. So it's a little bit different, but we're doing a great job getting it off the ground down there. Shout out to Steven Strike, who's really killing it down there, getting everything together. But yeah, that's opening up in the fall, and then hopefully more to come after that. But the biggest changes that we're going to make going into next year, all basically have to do with defense stuff. And making sure that we are, especially for younger, most of the big changes are going to come for 10, 11, 12. Because basically what we've done for the first 3 years, because we're very supportive of Little League. We want kids to go play Little League baseball. We don't want them to give it up for select baseball. So March, April, May, for the most part, we don't see 10, 11, 12-year-olds. They're here. They have optional open gym hitting twice a week. They have optional team practices on Sunday, which we don't get great attendance for because we kind of say, you guys are already playing enough baseball. You don't need to come out and do this. And we kind of punted the defensive coaching to Little League coaches, which just has insanely high variance. Like some of these guys are really good, and like these kids come back being able to like actually play defense. But the majority of them are just like dads who volunteer to do it and have no idea what they're doing. So they just like... These kids can't feel the ball. They can't catch fly ball, which is like, it doesn't really matter how fast you throw it or how hard you hit it if you can't do the things that like the bare minimum on a baseball field of like field a ground ball, catch a fly ball. And you're not going to field every ground ball, but like you at least have to be able to do like 60% of them at minimum. It probably should be way higher, but like we have a lower threshold. So we're adding a lot more defensive progression stuff inside. So the way we did it this year was... When we're inside, it's basically all about because we talked a little bit about warm-ups earlier, that our warm-ups are way different. We do like 10, 15, 20 minutes of warm-ups to make sure like all the muscle groups are activated before we get them thrown and hitting. And then at the end of practice, we always end with high performance. So if they're 13 and up, that means like lifting.
Yeah.
If they're 10 to 12, that is playing games. That the goal is to be more explosive, more athletic, and gain strength. So a lot of like med ball, volleyball, obstacle courses, relay races, things that like the kids have a really good time doing.
I've seen some fun ass shit, dude. I've wanted to do like people like almost like kind of like a version of tag and stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%. We have flag tag where they're running inside and outside obstacles and tagging each other, and they have a lot of fun doing that, and then they get better as athletes, which serves both purposes. But we didn't. We only did defense outside on Sundays.
Yeah.
And that's like that was good. Like it was way more than we did last year, so like we got better.
Yeah.
But like that's a consistent thing, right? Like so we're gonna try to meld HP and defense a bit more because there's a lot of things we can do to make them better athletically while also having them wear a glove and field the ground ball.
Yeah.
So
we have a deadlift and field the grounder right after.
We can make a field really small and then throw a 20-pound med ball, and they have to like throw the med ball to the cut and relay and have to back up and be in the right spot and like do it all with med ball.
Fire some throws off in game. If you're having them throw a med ball.
Yep. So like, I mean, their favorite, I think, if you ask most of the kids, is med ball volleyball. They just love that shit. So, just kind of making defense more fun, gamifying it a little bit, but just like focusing on it way more, and making sure to not really go more than like 2 practices in a row without doing something defense related. And like, I scouted, defense is 95% footwork. And like, you can teach footwork inside.
Like you're saying at the youth level, or
at any level, at any level, right? Like it's putting your feet. Like most throwing errors are because
or like the range or like the like because then you got the like arm in there and
your range, your ability to field the ball cleanly, your ability to throw the ball cleanly, your routes in the outfield, your first step quickness, all that's foot related. And that's we have constraints. We have a gorgeous big ass facility. But we have ceilings on our gorgeous big ass facility, so there's like not a lot we can do fly ball wise. We've got big metal poles that hold up those ceilings, so there's not a whole lot we can do like full infield defense. So basically, this year we were relegated to like machine ground balls or like with smash balls or like fungos in a cage, things like that, which is like fine, but like it's not going to it's not going to get you that much better. And there's a lot of stuff we can do to improve footwork. Which just will make fielding way easier. And we didn't do a ton of that this year. And we didn't get creative enough to solve that problem. Just like candidly, we had a lot of problems with season 2. I took over in May, so like almost all the way through the year, but like we had really like just started playing our games. And just like our coach quality wasn't great. There was a lot of variance. Our systems were really bad. We weren't documenting a lot of things. There was a lot of practices were going by, and again, this is coach variance, but like if a coach didn't really care about the technology, we just weren't really utilizing it. And that's just like not a thing we can do. So that was like, that had a lot of problems that when I first started, that was like, these are the things I need to fix right now. So like the things like making our kids better defensively were like relatively low on the list of problems I had last year because they were just like, it doesn't matter if these things are still a problem.
We need to fix a larger system.
Right. So we fixed like the top 5 biggest things that we needed to fix. And now we're left with like, our kids throw it harder and hit it harder than most kids they're playing. They're just not as good defensively. And it's like, I will take that problem 10 times out of 10 as opposed to like the problem of like our coaches aren't good. And like the practices are a little chaotic and not organized or structured. And like those are problems we solved. So like now the solve is like, okay, now we have to, how do we add more defense? How do we get these kids really better at defense? And shout out Cara, has been helping us out a little bit with a lot of because he does like a lot of fielding stuff, like the Friday fielding, stuff like that.
I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm. So
he's still on like
he's still the Giants bench coach, which is like, obviously a little tough in season for him to help us out a bunch with our defensive programming.
Wait, how'd you guys I know he's friends with Brady.
And judo.
Judo.
He's a friend of Driveline. So that was a thing. We're writing. I guess you talked about products. We were writing a youth baseball development book, as yet to be named. But it's in.
You had to be have a release date also, right?
We have a
Or
release
does it-
date.
Does it?
We have a release date. It's going to
is
be
it-
ABCA.
is it
It's going to be
legit?
available to purchase in its form at ABCA.
Okay.
2024.
Okay.
So it's already, the writing is finished. It's going through final editing right now, and then we got to design and do all that stuff, and obviously come up with a name for the book. That makes sense. But in that process, one of the things we didn't really have a thorough handle on, a thorough grasp on in the book, was the defensive stuff. And we ended up just kind of connecting with Kai, and he's gonna. I think he'll probably, because it's tough for him to do in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
So that might be version 2 of the book with his
Okay.
defensive stuff in there. But he's given us a lot of good defensive drills. His thoughts on how we can work on progression drills for a lot of these things and make these kids just way better at fielding. Because we're doing an awesome job making these kids better athletes. Able to produce a lot more force, and that is borne out by all the tests we do on the force plates, the jump tests. All of our kids are throwing harder on average. There's a couple kids that aren't, but you grow into new limbs, and you're going to take a little bit of a dip before you get up. So on average, we're gaining 2 miles an hour velocity in our 6-week development program, which is pretty hot. And bat speed is a little bit more than that. It's 2.5, 3. So we're getting great gains on the skill side. It's just at the moment, for our younger team specifically, not 100% mapping to on the field play. Because the defense is struggling a little bit. Because we just haven't put a ton of time into it. And then our older teams are going out there. Again, I coach a 14U team. There were teams last year at 13U on the slightly smaller field that just kicked our ass. They were just way better than us. They were bigger. My kids are mostly small. So they were bigger, just they kicked our ass. And we've played the same teams this year, and we're on a big field now, and that gap has massively closed. We've gotten a reputation, which is a positive thing, of the kids who throw gas. And the kid, we are played, because 14U is full field, so almost all of our games are played on high school fields. Our opponents are playing us straight up high school depth as 14-year-olds.
Damn.
So they're playing
30
feet from the warning track. So it's frustrating for my kids to hit a missile and then go right into a kid's glove. But it's the other kids can barely hit it out of the infield. So it's clearly working. There's just the defensive part that we got to clean up. And we're Driveline, so command can be an issue, especially for the kids who don't realize that you don't have to try to PR on every throw when you're on the mound, or PR on every swing when you're in the batter's box.
What are hit by pitch stats?
Hit by pitch stats aren't as bad as the walk stats. Because generally, especially since we throw hard, kids are diving out of that box to not get hit by a pitch. But kids don't want to swing. And youth umpires, not great. Especially with breaking stuff.
Oh, so they're also just stealing runs on the on ball strike calls. Youth
umpires famously not great to begin with, but also famously not great at breaking balls.
Should we do
scorecard?
Umping? Well, no, I was saying driveline umpire training.
So I had an umpire last Saturday.
Do some of the same warm-ups. Have them.
I got ejected from a game last year, and have not. And it was I was so embarrassed to get ejected from a youth baseball game. It was just I didn't deserve the ejection. It was an umpire who was just, making it all about him. And he called $7 on my team in one inning. And
really?
I went out there and I made a pitching change. As my new pitcher, 2 different pitchers. And as my third pitcher of the inning was warming up, I went to the ump and I pointed to all the parents in the crowd and said, "Do you think they came to watch you call balks?" And he immediately ran me, which I did not deserve. But that was just him. And it was embarrassing, so I've tried very hard to not get ejected. And then Saturday,
did you stop calling balks though?
No. So that was when I had my really long hair. He kicked me out, so I walked back behind the bleachers. He saw me and told me, you have to leave the complex. I was like, okay. And I had hair was in a bun. And then so I took off my hat, let my hair down, put on Devin's jacket, and stood there, and he had no idea.
Let's go.
So I don't remember if he called. I don't think he called any more balks. But so I've tried not to get ejected. And then this past Saturday, we had an umpire call balk for one of my kids. Nestor Cortez did on the mound because he is really slow to the plate. So we've been working on things he can do to vary up his timing to the plate to hold base runners because he's just not comfortable from the stretch or from a slide step. And and we had an umpire call a balk, and it was just like not a balk. And I went on and argued it, and he was like, it's in the rule book. If you have a rule book, go and bring it to me, and I will show you where it says it. And I took him up on that and went and brought him a rule book in between the innings and was sure I was about to get ejected. And he did not eject me. But he just like clearly didn't have an understanding of the balk rule.
Yeah,
and then
what did he say when you
emailed
brought that
Driveline support.
Oh, really?
On Monday, trying to defend himself and state his case that the pause in the delivery, that like the Nestor Cortez thing, whatever, like the pause at the top and like look back, is by his view, subjectivity, an interruption in the delivery.
Yeah.
And an interruption in delivery is a balk. However, like that's subjective and that's not accurate. But like,
you also he basically emailed in to like try to reach you.
yes.
Yeah.
And so obviously immediately it was seen and sent over to me, and I emailed the guy. He also happened to be there was a kid on my team who it is his middle school band teacher.
Oh.
So he was like, he's a great dude, but like, he's a middle school band teacher. Right?
Yeah.
So he emailed in and whatever, and I emailed offering him like either potential coaching role if he wants to coach here, because like I actually really appreciated him like thinking so much about it on Saturday
and following up,
that he emailed in on Monday
Yeah.
to try to explain himself and clarify a little bit more. And then I offered to have like him be our ump on retainer if we need like a Driveline ump. So Driveline umps, it's happening.
That's
it's happening.
That's sick.
I'm gonna get him in front of a hit tracks and see if he can. That's one of our biggest problems. Is our kids getting way too comfortable with the hit track zone.
Oh.
And then getting really frustrated when the youth umpires who are middle school band teachers don't
Does anybody
map
ever
it
call
directly.
a bigger zone, or is this always smaller?
Oh, it's always massive. The youth umpires always have massive zones.
Okay.
So like my kids are looking at strikes that they're just like, that's not a strike, and I'm just like, yeah, on a big league
I thought you were saying
hit
the other way. I
tracks.
thought you were saying the other way. I thought. Well, I mean, I thought you,
For
like, when you
breaking
guys-
balls, a lot of times yes.
Okay.
For breaking, but other teams don't throw breaking balls.
Yeah.
We see, we only see breaking balls on 2 strikes from any other team.
Yeah.
And we throw breaking balls. I told my kids, when does this come out?
I usually put them out Friday.
Next Friday?
This Friday.
This coming Friday?
Yeah.
All right. So if any of you coaches are listening to this and you're in the Art Right Memorial Tournament here in Seattle, I'm going to give you a great hint to what my team is going to do this weekend strategy-wise. We're not allowed to throw more than 2 fastballs in the same at-bat unless it's more than a 6-pitch at-bat.
Okay.
So we're throwing a third fastball.
2/3. Yeah.
2/3 off speed.
Yeah.
Because like we are the only youth organization in the state for sure, and I would posit probably one of very few, if any, in the country that use eye pitches. And so like our kids see breaking balls out in the machine. Other teams don't. All they're geared up to hit is fastballs.
Yeah.
So if we're throwing 2/3 breaking balls and we have some nasty breaking balls because we do pitch design with our kids, like we're gonna do pretty well. But umpires struggle.
Do other teams at least like throw changeups as off speed?
Well,
It's just fastballs.
Yeah, I mean, a changeup for a lot of these kids is just like I'm gonna throw a slower fastball. They don't actually know what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, most of them is just like all fastball. I mean, there's a ton of youth coaches who still think that like curveballs are bad for your arm.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's just and then like nobody's got TrackMan units to be able to pitch design and make these curveballs better.
Even classified like what the fuck they throw.
Right. Yeah. And like we've got kids who came here and they were like, I have this is my breaking ball, and we're just like, okay, it's not bad, but like it's kind of slurvy, so let's adjust grips and give you a curveball and a slider.
Yeah.
And like have some separation there.
Yeah.
And like they went from a kid who's like, I have a fastball and like an okay breaking ball to I have a fastball and 2 like pretty decent, very distinct, different breaking balls. Yeah. And that's like, you don't see that at 14.
Yeah.
Like most of these kids, that was the biggest thing we got back from our high school kids was when they went to high school tryouts and like started the high school season, they felt like they were so much more advanced and far ahead of where their high school teammates were because they had been hitting breaking balls for 2 months.
Yeah.
And like none of their high school teammates had seen a breaking ball until we got to like high school tryouts, high school season.
Yeah.
And that was like a pretty
that'd be the
big piece of
marketing
advice,
look,
right?
man. Just drive on youth. We throw breaking balls.
We throw breaking balls.
Yeah.
And like we get asked all the time. So we played a pretty good team 2 weeks ago. And like my team's pretty good, but like this is one of the top teams in the state. And they just are destroying teams. And we held them to less runs than like basically they had scored in any game this year because we just breaking balled them to death, and they're just good fastball hitters.
Yeah.
So like they don't care if your fastball's 78, they're still gonna hit it.
Yeah.
And like 78 is good for a 14-year-old, but they're still gonna hit it.
Yeah.
But if you can throw like a pretty good slider, they're just not gonna hit it, and it's gonna frustrate the hell out of them.
Yeah.
And then you could throw a fastball and they're not going to catch up to it because they're already in their head.
Yeah.
So, like, that's, you know, if you're in the art right, that's our strategy this weekend. Just get ready for 66%
That's how confident we are, bro. We'll tell you what we do, when we do it, doesn't matter.
Still not going to hit it.
You'll either still get walked or not be able to hit it.
Correct. Because that's most umpires will just call it where it lands and not where it crosses the plate, which is like, my kids get so frustrated when they throw like a really good breaking ball that like cuts out of the zone at the last second. And so like it'll be caught, or like our catchers, you know, aren't super great. So they're not framing it well or not receiving it well. And it's like, that was a strike and he's not calling it. And it's like,
Yeah. Trust the process.
Youth umpires.
But anyways, good to have you on, man.
Always.
Yeah, I'll probably put this out, in 48 hours. But yeah, dude, good to have the, well, I was gonna say brains behind the operation, but also everyone's a brain, but it's like, you know, like how involved you are at the across all levels. And yeah, I mean, I'm not super deep in just keeping up with Academy, but like it's been sick to see the product grow. Yeah, and yeah, huge responsibility. I'm glad you're getting 500 parents DMing you. Mm-hmm. That'll boost your Slack analytics stats. No,
it's not, it doesn't, because it's in the other Slack channel.
Oh yeah. All this triple, whatever yours is in Driveline. And we'll see who hits you up on your number. Yeah, 425-227-9076, and check out the Driveline Baseball Youth Academy podcast. Yeah, and send a picture so he knows who he's talking to.
Yes, absolutely. Pics needed.